Hey everybody,
We're back.
we are back and we are actually recording from beautiful downtown Twin Lakes, Wisconsin at
Cup
of Joe. We've got our Cup of Joe. We hope you're grabbing yours because this is Tap Into Your Badass Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
And what's the subject matter today?
Today we're going to talk about distraction. And interestingly enough, our first time we talked about fear.
Mm-hmm.
And fear can be a really huge distraction.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, what do we distract ourselves from? And is that a bad thing?
Right, exactly. And what I think I would like to ask Nancy is, Nancy, why don't you talk about there's healthy distractions and there's unhealthy distractions. So Nancy, what is a healthy distraction? How do you use distraction in a beneficial way?
I think it's normal, first of all. I think that's a big thing that we a lot of times don't always realize. But I think that there are times when certainly if you've done everything that you can about whatever your situation is, rather than sit around and stew, distract yourself by going on a bike ride, making a phone call to somebody who you haven't talked to for a while, going for a walk, straightening the junk drawer, whatever it might be, because you get to that place where you realize and own that you've done the things that needed to be done, and now it's a matter of it being in, somebody else's court, if you will.
Right.
You filled out the paperwork or you've made the phone calls or you've done all those things and there's really nothing else that you have left to do. So yeah, rather than sit around and wait for that phone call or sit around and wait for the mailman or whatever it might be, get outside, do something good for yourself. And there's a way to do that kind of as like a reward system.
Right. So you're using distraction. You're using distraction as a tool to maybe sometimes combat anxiety, right?
Sure,
Instead of being focused on anxiety,
right,
you're using it like a tool so that you're distracted long enough that you can actually look at the anxiety later and recognize it for what it is.
Right. And I think it comes back too to, getting back into that moment and saying, okay, really I've done what I can do. So it's almost a reward system, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
If I can kind of put out there that when I finish XYZ, I'm going to do this nice thing for myself, it can really work as kind of an enticement to get everything done the way it needs to get done. But on the same place. I mean, you can also, on the opposite hand of that, have distraction become something that's unhealthy.
Let's talk about that.
Yes, let's.
So Nancy's given an example of distraction as healthy. One of the things you're probably thinking is, well, how do I know what's healthy versus unhealthy? The first thing Nancy talked about was the fact that you made a concrete choice. You made the choice. And in order for you to make a choice, whether it's healthy or not, involves self-awareness. So one of the things that is not a form of healthy distraction is when you are on automatic pilot. Okay?
Right.
So how about most of us? Most of us, due to the demands in our life, and in particular, I'm going to say in this last year, because of a lot of things going on, that a lot of us are on automatic pilot.
Yeah.
Right? We're racing to work. We're raising kids. We're racing to a job if we still have one. We've got stressors on us now in this last year that are unparalleled in years previous.
Right. Somebody described it as being a hamster on a wheel.
Exactly right.
You're running, but really getting nowhere.
So talking about distraction as unhealthy and talking about people being on a hamster wheel and running through their day. Well, when you have unhealthy distraction in your life, it usually comes a lot of times. Distraction is considered a thing, okay? And we talked about this off camera. We talked about what's the difference between distraction and procrastination. Well, distraction is a thing or a noun. Procrastination is action or a verb.
Right.
So they are opposite in that respect. So when you've got distractions that come from outside you, something that's making you unaware of why you're making the choices you make, that's when distraction is considered unhealthy. And when that happens to you, you tend to stay on automatic pilot, and therefore you are not choosing to use distraction as a healthy form. You are basically just going and operating like that hamster on that
Right.
wheel.
It's mindless. It's that just automatic pilot.
Exactly.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I thinking what I'm thinking? Why am I believing what I'm believing? Why am I whatever? There's no why. That takes too much time.
Exactly. It takes way too much time. So unhealthy distraction is going to be something, and in this day and age, especially in this last year, what we have seen is a lot of unhealthy distraction that's been out there socially in this country. And what that means is that a lot of times we're caught up in what is going on in society, for one, and we're so caught up in it that we don't take the time to come off the hamster wheel to even address why we're choosing and making the choices we make to do the things we do. Instead, we're allowing that distraction, we're allowing whatever's going on in society around us to actually form the basis of our decisions. We're not giving clear thought to why we're actually choosing to do anything that we're choosing to do in our lives.
I think a lot of it too, we're not even choosing.
Right.
Something, someone, whatever else is choosing for us.
There you go.
Choosing to direct our thoughts and our eyes where they, whoever they is, want them to be, which takes the onus off of us. It takes the responsibility out of our hands. It takes, we just sort of float along and,
Absolutely. And I don't think
somebody else is calling our shots.
Right. That's distraction when it's unhealthy. Someone else is actually calling the shots, and we're not even aware that they're calling the shots. I think that's the biggest key to this, is that a lot of people are not aware that sometimes they're being distracted. And one of the greatest tools of distraction when it comes from outside of us is to use the word fear.
Yeah.
Fear is a major distraction. What fear can do is fear can ultimately cause people to focus on nothing but the fear itself, and therefore they're distracted from any other area or aspect of their life, because it's human nature. When we're afraid of something, as we talked about in our first video, most people want to make whatever they're afraid of go away, and they want it to go away fast. Right?
Agreed.
Want to make fear go away. Fear is it's an uncomfortable emotion to go through, but sometimes fear can be a very beneficial tool when used appropriately and used with the ability to empower people to do something to change a fearful situation for the better.
Right. Well, and I think what we have to really wrap our brains around too is that fear is an emotion.
Right.
That's not necessarily a factual thing, it's how we're feeling. And if we can really know that emotion, no matter how hard the emotion is, it can't kill us. It can't hurt us.
It cannot.
It's uncomfortable.
Right.
It's a choice to kind of sit in that place, but it can't actually take us out.
Right. And most people are unaware of that. Most people associate what they feel as being something tangible. If they feel something's going to harm them, that it can harm them. And one of the things you need to remember about fear is sometimes fear is false evidence appearing real.
Always.
And that's where you have to make that distinction. Is what I'm feeling actually something that's valid, real, or is it something that is created within my own thought process that makes me think it's real because I feel so frightened of something? And
and it's hard to do that when you're in the middle of it all and you're sitting in the midst of, allowing yourself to be distracted, to escape feeling the fear and all of that. It's a hard place to be, but it's a place that when you can wrap your arms around the fact that it isn't forever.
Right.
You won't feel this way forever. The situation won't be the same way forever. It's really, you come out on the other side of it.
Right.
With more strength and more self-awareness, more, the ability to get through things, the ability, it's sort of like you don't build muscle strength if you don't actually work the muscle.
Exactly right. And this up here, folks, is a muscle.
Oh yeah, big time.
It's a muscle that needs to be exercised. It's a muscle that through self-awareness, that's how you create exercise, exercising your brain, exercising your emotions, not allowing your emotions to sweep you away. And I think what happens with distraction when it's caused from an outside entity such as society, whatever society is imposing upon people as a group or individuals, is that you all of a sudden you are swept away. You're swept away in this current that you're not even sure why you're doing what you're doing. You're just doing it because someone told you should do it.
Right.
Someone said, gee, I think you should do this because that's what's in your best interest. Now, someone who possesses self-awareness might question that statement and say, is what you're suggesting actually in my best interest?
Right. Is it logical? Does it make sense?
Does it fit for me?
Up?
Right. Does it fit for me as a person? And I think that a lot of times people seem to be under the impression that they have the capacity to be able to influence others to think outside of their own needs. First of all, it is not selfish to think about your own needs, especially when it involves distraction. Actually, when a person makes a decision such as distracting for a healthy reason, get their mind off something they fear, get their mind off something that's causing anxiety, they have made an impact upon society by allowing themselves to feel good in that instance and be productive. And when you're productive and you're happy, you're contributing to society in a positive way. You're not out there running down the street screaming, the sky is falling, and impacting people in a negative way.
Well, the thing we have to remember too is that is taking care of yourself is not a selfish decision.
Mm-hmm.
You get on a plane and when they go through the whole safety thing, what do they tell you? Put your mask on first,
right,
before you help the people around you put their masks on. The old adage of if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy kind of thing. You need to make sure that you're complete and whole and full in order to spill out and serve other people.
Right.
And I think we get that backwards a lot and think that everybody else should come first and we're at the bottom part of the, at the bottom rung of importance. And I think that is actually a very counterintuitive thing, but it's a very normal societal thing that I think we all accept at one point in time or another,
Well, let's talk about this. So we've identified distraction as healthy. Nancy's brought up some great, and we tied in the fear aspect, which came from our first video. What are you afraid of? So we've identified distraction as a healthy tool. We've also identified distraction as an unhealthy tool. So let's talk about the solutions. Let's talk about the solutions of what to do with that healthy distraction, which I think is probably the easiest. Let's talk about the fact that once you recognize you have an unhealthy distraction, right? So what do you do about it? What can you do about it, Nancy? What can you do when society is saying to you, Nancy, you know what? I think that you should be concerned about a certain subject matter. I think that you should make certain choices based on what society wants you to make those choices, the way they want you to make it. Is that something that could be considered, is that unhealthy? I think that's unhealthy on some levels.
Well, and for me personally, the first thing that I do is say, you can't tell me what to do. I don't like the word should.
You should. There you go.
You should, because in actuality,
it's a cognitive distortion.
Well, and isn't that someone else distracting themselves by focusing on me and what I should do?
Excellent
and then you get
point.
into this really wacky, self-eating snake circle that's like what
exactly.
There's a part of that where you value yourself enough to say whoa, I'm an intelligent person and I can make that decision myself,
right,
to choose what I am going to be concerned about or what impacts me or my family, etc. A big part of combating some of those things coming at us is you take a deep breath and get back into your own skin and tune in and go, well, what do I want?
What do I want? Exactly right.
What is my concern? What is my, how does this benefit me? How does this whatever? It's taking that moment to become self-aware and not, it's like step off of the hamster wheel
Right.
long enough to really think about, that's an interesting thing. I'd like to look more into that. Or I agree because of this, or I disagree because of that. And you're making your own decision. You're not going by what someone is telling you that you should do.
Right.
Because bottom line, nobody else is you. Nobody else has lived your life.
Right.
I ask myself a lot, says who?
And questioning is
Right.
Questioning distraction is good. Questioning, and I think what we're starting to see recently is the fact that we're starting to stymie people's voices of questioning. There is no stupid question, was once told to me by someone I hold high regard for. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Questioning shows that you're present. Questioning shows that you're self-aware. Questioning shows that you are trying to make the best decision possible for your life, which in turn will benefit others.
And you most of the time you ask questions because you want to gain information. You want to have more input and more whatever it might be, data, what opinion, what do you think about that? Like, I want to know where you're coming from and how you came across those beliefs that you have, and vice versa, I would hope. And that's really being squelched a lot. And it's sort of
Right.
like, I sort of get the feeling sometimes like we're all just sort of like, being left to just twist in the wind.
Exactly.
Just twist in the wind. And the thing is, what is important and what's valuable and what gives us all strength and perspective is the ability to come together like this. Come to get together, discuss things.
But you're never discussing things if you're not questioning. And I think that's the
Right.
point. When you're being distracted via society and saying that everybody should just be swept along that current, whatever that current
You should
is.
do this, you should think this.
And the
you should-
implication
right.
is should, which should is a negative cognitive distortion. It's not positive. It doesn't produce positive results. It implies that what you're doing in the present moment is not correct.
Interestingly,
And a lot of pressure too.
I was having a conversation last night with a friend who talked about conversation in the olden days being another word for intercourse, meaning the give and take of something for each other. And
Right.
one of the things that I learned back when I was doing student counseling stuff back in high school was active listening. If you're so set on trying to get a point across, or I want to talk about this specific thing, then you're no longer
Engage.
you're not having a conversation with someone. You're not allowing it to go where it goes. You're so intent on, my next point is this, I'm going to get this across. I want to
You're
get
not listening.
Right, you're not listening
You're not
at
listening.
all. You're more intent on that next thing. Conversation, being with other people is a great distraction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a saying that, when you get together and if you put all of, everyone in the room, if you put all of their problems out on the table, you would take back your own. There's that perspective, there's some balance again, because we can get into a situation, especially when we are fearful of thinking we're the only ones dealing with this, or nobody has it worse than I do, or
Right.
I no one could ever understand that I'm afraid or that I'm having these feelings, and in actuality, we can't.
Right. And distraction, based on that, distraction tends to lead us to be separate from each other versus to be connected. So when you are distracted, you are not actually interested in engaging in this
Right.
candid conversation.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I was distracted.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like that.
Yes, it was distracted. Should I say that again? But there's a lot of truth to this. Distraction, what comes with distraction is not being in the present moment.
Right.
And when you are not in the present moment, you're not capable of being connected to people. You're either living in some past thought pattern that distraction has created, or you're living in a future form of distraction, something that's frightened you or you're anticipating happening in the future. You're not in the present moment, which means you're not connected to others.
Right.
So distraction, as a thought-provoking statement here, something you could take with you today. Distraction actually causes you to not be connected in a way that provides a solution for not just you, but for someone else. You're actually distracted to the point that you're not even aware of why you're making the choices that you're making. And that is something that a lot of people right now are not in touch with. They are on automatic pilot. They are continuing to make decisions that sometimes they aren't even sure are best for themselves, which means they're not being authentic to who they are. They're not making choices that promote their personal truth. And that sometimes can get people in trouble down the road because they can be caught off guard by the fact that they made a decision that they did not choose. They just went with the flow of the river, the current. The current took them, and now they're wondering how the heck they got to the end of the river.
Well, and I think that has to do again with what we talked about the first time out of the box with this fear.
Right.
You know, so much of what we do and how we make decisions and what we choose to distract ourselves with or not distract ourselves with, it's based around that fear. And the thing that I want to really stress is that each and every day, every moment of every day, we have a choice to make as to whether or not we want to become more self-aware, if you will, to stop long
Right.
enough to think for a minute and say, why am I doing this? Where is my head at right now? And to learn to be gentle with ourselves. We are human, you know. We're all under construction. We're all on journeys. We're not done. We're learning things that are new all the time.
We're never done.
And so we're challenging ourselves all the time. Challenge yourself to think for a moment when you get yourself, find a quiet moment and stop and think for a moment. How much have I been really in myself today versus how much have I been reacting to the things that are around me and reacting to this, just how many hours today was I on the hamster wheel? Hey, maybe today I'm on the hamster wheel 5 minutes less. Give yourself credit for that.
Right. Reward yourself for that.
Take with a healthy distraction.
With a healthy, absolutely correct. Which could be sitting down.
It
could be sitting down and having coffee for even 5 minutes, which everyone says there's no way I could take 5 minutes out of the day to do anything because my life is so busy. Well, make yourself the priority,
right.
Like Nancy says. And I will tell you, I struggle with this still. I know Nancy's dealt with it. This being kind to yourself thing is so important right now, especially right now during the times that we're going through. It is important to treat yourself with kindness, and here's why. When you can treat yourself with kindness, you'll be capable of treating someone else with that same kindness. If you judge yourself and you don't take that 5 minutes to have that cup of joe,
because you're worth it,
okay, because you are worth
right.
it, then what happens is you will not turn around and be kind to someone else. What you will do is you will resentfully judge someone else who you feel isn't doing what they should be doing.
Oh, that's
right.
That's a good conversation for.
That's another
judgment.
Judgment.
Yeah.
We might do a show on judgment as well.
Yeah.
But you can see where these things tie in together. So everything isn't a separate entity. What are you afraid of actually led to us talking about distraction today, and hopefully enlightening you to the fact that distraction can be a positive choice or it can be a negative reaction. And the thing to remember that's most important is that when you're self-aware, you can make it a positive choice. You can make it work for you. When you are not self-aware, you are more inclined to react, which means you're not choosing. And that's when distraction can be unhealthy.
Yeah, hopefully out of all of this, you'll put yourself in the driver's seat, so to speak, of your life. And the decisions that you make will definitely be decisions that you make, not that someone makes for you.
Exactly.
And that all goes into this, these baby steps of becoming more powerful, less fearful,
right?
More aware of the power that we have ourselves to make the best out of this go round that we have.
So I think on that note, maybe we're gonna think about wrapping it up. But we do want you to.
Can I do a shameless plug?
You could do, yes. Here, shameless plug time.
This is a shameless plug for my book that I wrote. That, as you can see, was the Big Book Award winner. So it's my shameless plug. It's a memoir. You will feel like you're sitting here when you read this.
Yes,
I think,
you will.
Really. So yeah, that's my shameless plug of my Lessons from the Ledge.
Please go on Amazon.
Check it out. Yeah, it's on
Purchase
Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com, and I'm beyond proud of it. It captures a snapshot.
Yes, it does.
Life has gone on since then. So that's why I'm working on book 2.
That's
It's called
right.
More Lessons.
Yes.
But yeah, that was my shameless plug.
That's
Thank you.
okay. Well,
Our
that's all right,
second
Nancy.
shameless plug.
I love her book. I suggest,
Cup of Joe.
this is Cup of Joe. That's right. We are definitely, that's another
Best coffee place on the planet.
best coffee place. So again, please leave your comments. We really do take them seriously, and we will try to improve each and every video that we do. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to edit this one. I'm not sure what the heck I did in the beginning of this
If there's
video.
a big spot where it's like a chunk missing, don't worry about it. You know,
Hopefully, I can splice the two together.
we're
That's
just
how to be
us.
interesting.
We're not afraid.
That's right. We're not afraid. So what is it? Share, subscribe.
And seriously, leave comments. I want to know who's watching, what you're dealing with, because really, you know, in the scope of things, we're all a lot more the same than we are different. And
remember to tap.
So remember to
tap into your
bad ass.
Bye.